Guide-based liquid layout rules allow you to create guides that keep the relative position of objects on the page. With this layout, guide-based rules are very quick and very easy, especially for covers, like I have here. In the Pages panel, I'm going to start by going to the Page tool, choosing Window, Interactive, Liquid Layout. And for page A, which is the cover, I'm going to choose Guide-based. I'll move this over so it's not in the way of my Pages panel. And now I'm going to move to the vertical ruler along the left side and drag out a guide, making sure that it touches the large photo, the company logo, and this white tinted box. This is a new type of guide added to InDesign CS6 called a liquid guide. I'll also drag a ruler from the top to the top margin so it sits on the web address. And if I whip up an alternate layout by clicking the arrow next to iPad Vertical and choosing Create Alternate Layout, and click OK, the cover does a beautiful job. It's not using any master, and my logo and the tinted box stayed in relative position. The girl wearing the gloves got scaled up but is still filling the cover and the layout, and my web address stayed relatively close towards the top. Unlike object-based liquid layout rules, this makes a few more decisions for you. So I'm going to, before I undo, take a look at page 1, and 1, 2, and 3 really are not ideal. Because I'm using a solid black background on the master, for this file I have to combine on the master only object-based rules to keep everything, items like this star, the rule, the page number, and the columns in their proper position. So now I'm ready to undo creating the alternate layout. I will double-click on the master. I'm still on the Page tool, and for the master only, I will set it to object-based. Master B is based on Master A, so I only need to set these rules for my A master. I have two masters built, one without text frames for the pages that have larger image content and buttons, things for devices. So I will select the large black background. I will tell it to auto-fit, resize the width and height, and pin it to all four sides. For this rule, I will let it resize the width, and I will auto-fit. For this graphic, I will resize the width and height, and I don't think I'll do any pinning on this one. For the page number box, I will resize the width and pin it to the left and right so that it stays centered. In fact, that's probably a good idea for this graphic. I'll make sure I auto-fit and I'll pin it to left and right so that it stays small inside its frame. Now, without setting up guide-based rules on page 1, this should get a little bit better, but it won't be perfect until I draw guides, because the goal of this whole video is to show you guide-based rules for the individual pages. This is just a more complex layout, so I need to show you real-world examples where if something's not behaving, you'll know to inspect the master or to move your guides on the page itself. So again, I'm going to choose Create Alternate Layout, click OK. My cover's fine, we checked that earlier, but I'll double-click on page 1, and it is better, although this snowflake graphic is a bit out of control, so I'll check my rules for that. But my black background did center and resize, my page number is still centered, and my rule is in good shape. So I'll undo, and I'll double-click back on the master and just check this snowflake graphic, and I'm going to set it to not pin on the left and right, but just pin to the top. It's resizing the width and height, and it is auto-fitting. I'll double-click back on page 1, and this guide has already been created for the layout during the design process. I'm going to switch to my Selection tool, select the existing guide, and change this page to Guide-based. When I do, a new icon appears saying this is an old-fashioned ruler guide. When I click once, it becomes dotted, and now it's used for liquid rules when creating alternate layouts or when changing the page size. So to be quick about this, I'm going to draw in a guide that is roughly in the center of this text column. And if it disappears, you might want to hit Command minus or Control minus to zoom out. When I drag my guide over, I need to let go above the page. So I'm putting a guide in the middle and making sure it is a liquid guide, that it is dashed. I'm putting it in the middle of each column. And I'm making sure that it crosses over any important image content and any important text columns. In fact, to not have to convert these every time, I'll simply go back to my page tool, and all guides I create now will be liquid guides. So this page is set up with guides, and I could place one other guide at the top where this subhead starts. So let's see how that does. Create alternate layout. Click OK. Double-click on page 1. A bit better. I've built most of my guides, and I want to do one last thing. This photo was set to auto-fit, so it may scale improperly. So I'm going to uncheck auto-fit for this image. I've drawn guides across the center, important guides crossing these items on the last page and the middle of the photo, on this page at the top of the text frame, and crossing each column, and on this page at the top of the main text and crossing the middle of the left column, the center column, and the middle of the right column. There will still need to be tweaks, but let's create the alternate layout. I'm using the guide-based rules for everything, and page 1 looks far better. I'll hit Command minus or Control minus to zoom out, and I'll start tweaking. I may need to scale or move objects, especially when changing from the horizontal to the vertical. So I'm going to use Command and Shift on the Mac or Control and Shift on Windows to scale these two photos down so they fit in the column. Now all of my text is fitting, and feel free to tweak here where you feel it's necessary. The text in this is also aligning to a grid, so if it looks like it's jumping long rows on you, it is because there's a baseline grid. On this page it looks fairly good, but it thinks it needs a page 3 inserted in between these two because the image stayed so large. So I'm simply going to resize this image up, hit Fit Content Proportionally or Fill Frame Proportionally and center, and then scale this. Scale my text box up, and if you do get this to the proper size, it will omit that page 3 that it doesn't need any longer. So compensations will have to be made. Adobe's research has found that no layouts are perfect. They always have to make adjustments for the horizontal and vertical. I'll click on the center target, and I love the Command, comma, or Control, comma shortcut to scale content down and recenter. And I'll use my arrow keys to nudge. Shift and your arrow keys will go faster. So I'll let you play with the rest of this on your own, but I'm fairly happy with most of my content fitting and filling, and small tweaks can be made after that. So all of these pages, all 5 of them in the new horizontal layout, use the liquid page rules of guide-based. With the exception of the pages with the black background, their master is object-based, and I'll fix this last logo, but when it built the new layout, the horizontal iPad layout has a C master, and then the D is based on C. So picking up the same rules that you started with from the A master. And I will go to my selection tool, fit content proportionally. I'm happy with that. And you may also need to resize your primary text flow. I didn't set up rules on that. I actually could have set up rules before creating the alternate layout, and that would save me this time. The more practice you get with liquid layouts and using object-based or guide-based rules, depending on your time, how much you like to control it, and the desired end result that you'd like, the better you will get with your liquid rules. Because I resized my CMaster text frame, I did have to come back and make adjustments in the document. So just be aware, everything you do on the master, especially with the new primary text frame, does affect your document pages. But everything is fitting, and I'll just have to let it go the way I say it. It's one word. Play with the final layout, and you can look at my end file to see both layouts done via guide-based liquid page rules.